Hi, folks. Welcome to week 2. I'm assuming many of you are local to mid or central Iowa, or at least the Midwest, and I'm telling you, we have had a heck of a couple of days or a week or so now. That's a nice thing about the online classes is they don't get as affected by cancellations, but man, has this been a crazy first week back to classes. So I hope you all have stayed safe and warm. And I can tell you my dogs are so freaking happy about all this snow, but I am just absolutely over it. But anyway, on to bigger and better things. So I just wanted to go through a little bit of what we're going to be talking about during, or what you're going to be working on, and you'll be writing about during week 2. I hope you spent some time with in the book and got through chapter 1 and chapter 2. I do have, if you didn't get a chance to get all the way through the reading, I'm not assigning an additional chapter, so I think I have chapter 2 on our list for the week. Chapter 2 goes into a lot of the history of children's literature, and I think it's just a really nice foundation to have as we go forward and talk about a lot of these things. I am going to also talk to you a little bit today about your first essay, one of the first of the 4 larger essays of the class. So I'm just going to go down your list of assignments and try to explain anything that I might need to, and then I will let you get to work. So again, your list of assignments this week is to, of course, view this video. You're gonna go out and look up some common literary terms and just submit those definitions to me. Don't get too far into detail. 1 or 2 sentences each is fine. A lot of these you can find in your book in the glossary, or you can find them online with a simple Google search. I'm going to walk you through an MLA style document. Again, like I said, if you haven't gotten through chapter 2, go ahead and take the time to do that. We have a short reading response this week that you can just do online, and that's the literature and child development, asking you to dig deeper into those developmental tables that were in chapter 1 that talk about the cognitive, emotional, and language development of children. And again, last, we have details on your first big essay. So I'm going to go through that really quickly with you. Back to the modules. Okay, so again, the common literary terms, very simple. Go out, look those up, do the submission. The MLA paper format, I'm going to bring that up really quickly. So as I'm looking away from the camera, that's what I'm looking at. Many of you have seen documents like this before. I'm not going to read through the whole thing for you because it literally explains what it's doing as you read it. But just pay close attention when it talks about formatting of papers. This is what I'm really going to be looking for in major papers that you upload as an attachment. When you get to submit in just like the text box, like the writing, or excuse me, the writing prompts, reading response type things, it's not quite as big of a deal, but definitely for the draft of this first paper, you're going to want to be following MLA format. So pay close attention to things like everything should always be double spaced. You want a 12-point font in general, maybe 11 if that's what you default to and you don't notice the difference. You always want to have that header at the top, that on the top left-hand corner, that basically has your name, my name, the class name, and the date. Technically, it is the date that the item is turned in. People always ask me that question. Honestly, I don't go look at dates too often. If you have a title on your document, it needs to be in the same size, font, and style as the rest of the paper and centered. Notice that MLA does not call for a cover page. If you're doing work in APA, maybe in some of your other classes, that's really common. But for MLA, you do not need that. And then, of course, at the top right-hand corner, you want to have your last name and page number. You can usually insert that just as a header, okay? And there's very simple tutorials online about how to do that if you're not sure. And if you're still having trouble, just give me a holler. It goes on to talk about citation and those sorts of things. You do not need to cite sources in the paper that we're working on this week, but we will spend some time as we get into the other papers that will require citation to talk about some of those. I have a guest. Goose. My guest is saying hello to us today. Anyway, as you can tell, he's one of those big snow dogs. So he, like I said, very happy guy right now. Okay, so if you have questions about MLA, let me know. There are all kinds of sources out there. Purdue OWL, the online writing lab, is a great source, but there's just so much out there now that it's really easy to find what you need. And going forward, okay, so your writing prompt, that's the little short writing exercise in response to your reading. And this one, it again, 300 to 500 words. You can submit it in the text box. Make sure you're doing your normal check for grammar, spelling, punctuation, all the good stuff. And it's asking you like, what are some of your takeaways after you looked at through those charts? When I first saw them, I was like, wow, I wish I would have had these when I was raising my kids when they were younger, because I just found it so interesting. In fact, I took some photos of it and sent it to my daughter-in-law and said, save this for when you're ready. And then also like looking through that, you can put yourself in the role of either an educator or a caregiver for a child. What would you like? How would you take that information and use it if you were making lesson plans, or if you were just, thinking about the reading that you would have for a child that you cared for? How is that information helpful, and how would you use it? And then I would just really quickly, can you think of a book that taught you something? Now we're going to reflect more in the first writing, or excuse me, first big essay that I'll talk about here in a moment, about like writing that really, really influenced you, or what your favorite literature was when you were younger. Um, but this would be simply like I was deeply affected by the book The Green Mile. It's also a movie. A lot of people didn't know it was written by Stephen King. Um, it talked a lot about men on death row, and it was just very, very. It gave it gave a life view that I really hadn't experienced before and hadn't thought much about. And so I would call that one of the formative pieces of work that I've read. So it's just one example. So if you can think of like a book or a movie or something else that I think I put that you read, but it could be something that you viewed as well, but something that like, wow, you think about that as like something that really taught you a lesson. So just kind of think about that a little bit and get your 300 to 500 words out of that. And last, I want to talk to you about first reflection essay one. So this is worth 50 points. Plus, you'll be writing a draft and doing some editing, and that you'll get points for that as well. So for this essay, you will identify and discuss important aspects of the literature you grew up on. Reminder: this can include written pieces like books, poems, or plays, but could also be movies, video games, and even television shows. I know Paw Patrol was a big thing in my house when my kids were little, and we still make Paw Patrol references. And even though my son, who was into it, is like 16. So please write about the following. So choose 3 pieces of literature that were important to your childhood, devoting a well-developed paragraph to each. Your essay should also include an introduction and conclusion. Please write about the following things. Identify the piece or series and talk about when and how you first encountered it. And I understand you may not remember when the first time you encountered it was. It could have been something that you watched from the time you were very young. What is it about this work, story, or characters that drew you in? And what lessons were you learning about life, relationships, and emotional development from these works? So you see, we're kind of harkening back to what we talked about in chapter 1 a little bit. So, and know too that, my oldest son, one of the biggest things that he surrounded himself in when he was little was Star Wars. And so while that might not be seen as children's literature, clearly it's something that also appeals to children. In fact, now Disney even owns the rights to the Disney franchise, or to the Star Wars franchise. So they're definitely looking at it that way. So yeah, just of course you're going to do this in MLA style, 400 to 600 words. I want you to upload it as a Word document, and I want you to, of course, pay close attention to essay structure, grammar, spelling, all the good stuff. So this week, by the end of the day on the 22nd, you're going to upload a draft of the paper. Then I'm going to turn around and send those out. I'm going to pair you up with one of your peers in the class, and you're going to read probably 2, just in case someone would miss it or not get it back to you, so you at least get some feedback. And you are also going to give feedback to your partners and just kind of, give them some things to look at. I do want to get that peer edit back by the 25th. That way you have some time to revise that final draft and make edits based on the feedback you get. If you don't feel like you got enough feedback from your partner, or, that's the only reason why I hesitate sometimes to do partner work in an online class or in any class, is that sometimes the other partner does not live up to their side of the assignment, which can be very frustrating. If that happens in this case, it's especially hard with peer editing because that means you probably did the work and the other person did not. So please don't be that guy or that gal or that whomever. Um, but if you do feel like you need additional feedback on your paper, please don't hesitate to take it to a writing lab, or there's even an online writing lab available through DMAC. So please feel free to look through that. I wish I had time to look through everybody's papers, but if you have something in particular that you want me to look at, call my attention to it and I can try to get into that, or we can have an appointment online and talk about it. So that's pretty much it for this week. If you have questions, let me know. Again, in general, new material comes out. The new weekly module comes out on Tuesdays, usually during the day on Tuesday. And then most work will be due the following Monday. Like I said, this week you do have something due on the 25th, just because we're going to do some peer editing and I want people to have time to make revisions. But again, in general, that unless otherwise stated, that's pretty much the format. So you guys have a great week. Reach out if you have questions, and I hope you stay warm. Good luck on that.